I grew up in North Carolina, and every summer since I was a kid, we'd visit my aunt's house for a couple of weeks. She had this big place out in the country, huge backyard, quiet roads, and the one thing that made it everyone's favorite, an in-ground pool. This story happened the summer I turned 17. It was late July, the air was thick with humidity, and it was the kind of hot where your skin feels sticky even after a shower. My cousin Daniel was 18 and home from his first year of college. We were tight, always had been, and that summer we spent every evening in that pool, just floating around with the bugs buzzing in the trees, music playing from the back porch, and cans of soda, or cheap beer, if we could sneak one. One night, it was just him and me. My aunt and uncle had gone out to some community thing, and we had the whole house to ourselves. Around 10:30 p.m., we were chilling in the water, heads bobbing under the stars, not saying much. The porch light was off, but the pool lights glowed blue under the surface, kind of lighting up the water and just a few feet around it. Daniel floated over to the edge, resting his arms on the pool deck, just gazing out toward the trees. He goes, "Dude, don't freak out, but is someone standing at the fence?" I turned instantly, scanning the tree line that bordered the property. The backyard was fenced in, but just beyond it, the woods started, dense and black. At first I didn't see anything, just shadows and darkness, and maybe some fireflies blinking near the trees. But then, I saw it. A figure, tall, lean, just standing there on the other side of the fence, completely still. It was far enough away that I couldn't make out the face, but close enough to know this person, or whatever it was watching us. I laughed at first, a nervous kind of laugh. It's probably a neighbor or someone messing with us. Daniel didn't say anything. He just kept staring. And then he muttered, "Nah, dude. He's been standing there. I saw him move into place. He didn't walk up. He just kind of appeared." The longer I looked, the more uncomfortable I felt. The figure hadn't moved an inch. No shifting, no swaying, nothing. Just planted there, head tilted slightly like he was observing. I called out loudly, "Yo!" No response. I got out of the pool and walked over to the edge of the deck to get a better look. I called again. Still nothing. Not a twitch. I told Daniel to get out too. Something didn't feel right. It was that gut-level kind of unease you can't shake, even when you try to explain it away. I grabbed a towel and started toward the back door, and I swear to God, the second my hand touched the knob to open it, Daniel yelled from behind me, "He's gone." I whipped around. The fence? Empty. The trees behind it? Still. But no sign of the figure. Like he'd vanished. No footsteps. No rustling in the leaves. No sound. I rushed back outside toward the fence, towel still wrapped around my shoulders. We walked along the edge, scanning the woods. But it was just darkness. Nothing. That night, we slept inside with all the lights on. Neither of us said it out loud, but we both knew something about that night was off in a way that we couldn't explain. The next day, we tried to brush it off. "Maybe it was just some weirdo," Daniel said, "some creeper from town." But his voice was unsure, and I was already triple-checking the backyard every couple of hours. A couple nights later, around the same time, I woke up to the sound of water. Not like rain or a leak, but like a splash. I thought maybe Daniel was taking a late-night swim, which wasn't unusual. I peeked out my window. From the second-floor guest room, you could see the whole backyard and pool. The light in the water was on. The surface glowed, gently, a soft ripple across it. But no one was swimming. The splash came again, and then I saw it. A figure standing at the shallow end of the pool, just ankle-deep in the water. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. I rubbed them, squinted. The shape was there. Pale skin, long limbs, no clothes. Just standing there with its back toward me. I didn't move. I just stood there frozen behind the curtain, not sure if I was dreaming or hallucinating. The figure started to slowly walk into the pool, step by step, like it was wading into a warm bath. But it didn't swim. It just walked in, fully submerged, until it disappeared beneath the surface. I ran to get Daniel. He didn't believe me, of course. We ran back to the window. The pool looked normal, still, glowing blue. But there were no ripples, no sign of anyone. We went down, opened the back door, and stepped outside together. That smell hit us instantly. Chlorine, and something else. Like damp earth, like rotting leaves after rain. I was too scared to go in, but Daniel grabbed the pool net and skimmed the top of the water. Nothing. We didn't go back in the pool the rest of that trip. When we told my aunt and uncle, they just laughed, said it was probably deer or raccoons or too much sun and sugar getting to us. But a few summers later, when I came back as a college student and visited again, my aunt casually mentioned she was thinking about getting rid of the pool, said it just didn't feel the same anymore. That sometimes at night, she swore she could hear footsteps sloshing in the water, even though the cover was on. That pool's still there, but nobody swims in it. Not at night, not anymore. I was working a summer job at a national park out west a few years ago. I won't say which one, because even now it feels weird to talk about. I was 21, and I'd landed this seasonal ranger gig through a conservation program. It wasn't glamorous. I wasn't rescuing hikers or fighting fires, but I was stationed at a visitor center and sometimes patrolled one of the lesser-known trails nearby. Most of the people who came to our park were families, tourists, retirees, normal folks just trying to get their nature fix. The trail I monitored wasn't one of the main ones. It was about 5 miles long and looped around a bluff that overlooked a huge valley. Pretty views, quiet woods, not a lot of traffic. Honestly, I loved it. Anyway, this happened in early August. It was hot that day, like 90-something degrees, even up in elevation. The kind of day where you sweat through your shirt before you even get out of your car. I was doing a solo patrol in the late afternoon, just checking for litter, damage, anything weird. I had just passed the halfway point on the trail when I noticed something strange. There was a man standing just off the main path, maybe 30 feet into the trees. He was wearing a long-sleeve shirt and dark jeans, which made no sense given the heat, and he was just standing there. I stopped and called out, "Hey, everything okay?" No answer. I took a few steps off the trail, squinting through the trees. He hadn't moved. I figured maybe he didn't hear me, so I called again, a little louder. "Sir? You all right?" Still nothing. No reaction. It wasn't until I got closer that I noticed something even weirder. He was facing away from me, like toward the trees, not looking around, not moving, just completely still. Now, I've dealt with lost hikers before. Sometimes they panic, sometimes they shut down, but this was off. He didn't even flinch. I stopped about, tilted 10 feet away and radioed in, just to be safe. Gave dispatch my location, said I might have someone in distress. They told me they'd log it, asked me to approach carefully and report back. So I did. I said, "Hey sir, do you need help?" One last time. That's when he finally moved, but not like you'd expect. He didn't turn around. Instead, he just started walking, slowly, still facing away, heading deeper into the trees. And I don't mean he panicked and ran. It was almost like he hadn't heard me at all, like I wasn't even there. I shouted again, "Sir, you can't go off trail. It's not safe." No response. Just that same slow walk. Then he vanished behind a thicket of brush and trees. I hesitated. I really didn't want to go chasing some guy into the woods, especially not when he was acting that weird. I radioed again and requested backup just in case. They said they'd send someone, but it could be 20 to 30 minutes. I marked the spot and followed, slowly, staying cautious. After maybe 50 yards, the forest opened up a bit. There was this weird low clearing, almost like a sunken part of the woods, and right in the middle of it was the guy, just standing there again, still facing away. This time, something was seriously wrong. His arms were at his sides, totally limp. His posture looked off, like his head was tilted slightly, like he couldn't lift it up. I was about to shout again, when he took one step forward and just dropped, like a rag doll, collapsed, face first into the ground. I ran to him, calling out as I moved. When I got close enough to roll him over, my stomach twisted. His eyes were open, wide open, bloodshot. His mouth was slightly agape, and he was breathing, but barely, shallow and fast. His skin was damp, almost slimy, and ice cold, in the 90-degree heat. I checked for wounds. Nothing obvious. No snake bite. No bleeding. No scratches even. His clothes were weirdly clean for someone who just collapsed in a forest. I kept calling to him, trying to get his name, where he came from, anything. No response. He just blinked. Shallow breaths. Pupils huge. That's when I saw something I still can't explain. There was dirt. Dark, thick dirt, jammed under his fingernails. But not like he'd been digging. It looked packed in there, like something had pressed the dirt up into his nail beds from underneath. Backup arrived not long after. EMTs, another ranger. They rushed him out, and I gave my statement. Here's the thing. He had no ID, no phone, no wallet, no car parked at any nearby lot. No one reported him missing. When I asked about him later, I was told, he's stable but not talking. Then I was told not to worry about it. But I couldn't let it go. I went back to that same area a week later, on my own time. I found the clearing again. There were faint drag marks in the dirt, like something, or someone, had been pulled through there. But it didn't lead to the trail. It led deeper into the woods, off in a direction where there aren't any marked paths, not even animal trails. I followed it for maybe 20 yards before it just stopped. The dirt flattened, the trees got denser, and then, right at the base of one old, gnarled oak, I saw something half buried in the leaves. It was a shoe, a black work boot, still laced, still clean, like someone had placed it there. I never told anyone about that part. I finished the season, but I didn't come back the next year. Too many nights I'd dream about that man, his pale skin, that posture, the way he didn't seem to hear me. I still wonder where he came from, or worse, what brought him there. This happened the summer after my senior year of high school. I lived in upstate New York, and there's this forested area near where we grew up, part of a huge state park that stretches for miles. It's the kind of place everyone in town knows, but not a lot of people actually explore. We'd been there before on field trips, camping weekends, that kind of thing. But this story? It made me never want to go back. There were 4 of us that night, me, Alex, Jordan, and Chris. We'd all been friends since middle school, and this was kind of our last hurrah before college started. We planned this little camping trip in early August. Just one night, nothing crazy. We hiked out into the woods to this old clearing near a creek where people used to pitch tents back in the day. It was a bit of a walk, maybe 2 or 3 miles from the nearest trailhead, and by the time we got there, the sun was already dipping low. We set up camp, pitched 2 small tents, started a fire, and cooked hot dogs on sticks like we were 12 again. The mood was good. We joked around, told stories, roasted marshmallows. At some point, Alex pulled out a little Bluetooth speaker and started playing old songs we used to blast in high school. It felt like the perfect summer night. Until it wasn't. It was around midnight when we first heard it, crunching in the woods. Not like a raccoon or a deer. This was steady, slow, human-sounding, heavy footfalls. We all froze for a second and looked at each other. I said, "Probably another camper." But that didn't make sense. We hadn't passed a single other person on the way in. The parking lot was empty when we arrived. We would have heard someone behind us. We killed the speaker and sat quiet, trying to listen. Nothing. Chris eventually stood up, grabbed a flashlight and called out, "Hello?" No answer. He swept the beam of light through the trees but didn't see anything. We figured maybe it was a hiker cutting through or someone just lost. Either way, it seemed to pass, and we tried to move on. But that weird feeling stuck with us. That sense that someone, or something, was out there watching. We tried to go to sleep not long after that. I shared a tent with Alex. Chris and Jordan were in the other. It took me forever to fall asleep, but eventually I must have. When I woke up again, it was pitch black and completely silent. That's what struck me first. No bugs, no wind, no night sounds. Just absolute stillness. Then I heard something. Not from outside the tent, from inside. It was faint, like breathing, but not mine. This one was slow, ragged, wet-sounding, like someone who'd run a marathon and was trying to catch their breath quietly. It was right behind me, inches away, just on the other side of the thin tent wall. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I felt like my heart was about to explode. Then I heard the zipper. Not mine. The one on Chris and Jordan's tent. That slow, dragging sound of it being unzipped. No whispering, no talking. Just the zipper. Then nothing. I wanted to call out, but I couldn't. My throat felt like it had closed up. I waited. Maybe 5 minutes. Maybe 15. I don't know. I finally worked up the courage to sit up and whisper Alex's name. No answer. I reached over. His sleeping bag was cold. Empty. My pulse spiked. I unzipped the tent slowly and stepped out into the darkness. I couldn't see a thing. "Chris?" I called. "Jordan?" Nothing. Their tent was there, but it was wide open. Flashlight gone. No sign of either of them. Then I heard the fire. It had gone out earlier, but now it was crackling again. Small, like someone had just relit it. I turned slowly, and someone was sitting there, right next to the fire, cross-legged, perfectly still, staring into the flames. But it wasn't one of my friends. The firelight lit up just enough of his face for me to see that he was older, maybe mid-40s, pale, hair soaked like he'd just walked through a thunderstorm. His clothes were weird. Heavy coat, boots, like he was dressed for winter. His hands were resting on his knees, but they were filthy, fingernails black with dirt. I didn't move. Then he spoke. Not to me. Just a whisper, barely audible, like he was talking to the fire. He said, "They walk through the trees. They listen when you laugh. They hate the laughing." I stood there frozen, not knowing what to do. Then I saw someone behind him. It was Alex. He stepped into the light slowly, his face blank, like he was sleepwalking. He sat down across from the man, not saying a word, just sitting there. Then Chris, then Jordan. One by one, they emerged from the shadows and sat around the fire, facing this stranger. None of them looked at me. None of them acknowledged me. The man kept talking. "Don't open your mouth. Don't look at them in the trees. Don't speak their names." He reached into the fire, bare-handed, and pulled out a piece of burning wood, held it up like a torch. No reaction to the heat. Then, he turned his head slowly, finally looking at me. "You brought them here," he said. I ran. I don't remember choosing to run. I just did. Sprinting through the forest, branches slapping my face, barely able to see. Somehow I made it back to the trailhead. I sat in my car until sunrise, shaking. I called the ranger station, told them what happened, and they sent people out. I didn't go with them. Later they said they found the camp, the fire still burning, but nobody was there. No tents, no gear, no signs of my friends, just footprints, 4 sets, leading into the woods. They never found them. I tried to explain what happened, but no one believed me. They said it must have been a group disappearance. Maybe they got lost. Maybe they wandered off. But they didn't wander. They followed him. And every summer since, I get the same dream. A campfire, a whisper, and 3 faces staring into the flames, waiting.